Titanfall 2. A fast-paced first-person shooter with some interesting mechanics released near the end of 2016 by Respawn Entertainment. This is a franchise I had a lot of interest in, but mainly skipped because I'm not that keen on strictly multiplayer games, which Part 1 was. With Titanfall 2 being given a proper story mode, I was going to get to it eventually, and now I have. After finishing the campaign, I can safely say there is an incredible level of mobility, verticality, and super fast-paced combat. Titanfall 2 delivers an easily digestible yet distinctive gameplay experience, whilst also providing a coherent, entertaining, and sometimes thoughtful story.
3 million souls on the planet Harmony will be lost.
Now, I have played Apex Legends, and I knew it was set within the same shared universe, but when I first jumped into this game, I was surprised by just how much the weapons and sound design felt so similar. I mean, I mainly say that because the game is only 3 years older than Apex, and about 7 years old today, yet still very much holds up in terms of combat, mechanics, sound, and visuals. Although I don't think the sliding, wall running, double jumping, time travel mechanics, or even the use of mechs are new ideas, the execution is excellent, and I think the appreciation for this game boils down to how easily you can just jump in and play. I think going back into the history of Vince Zampella and the old Infinity Ward crew, you can definitely see the evolution of game design. The gradual introduction of these new game mechanics being slowly added into more modern day titles was almost inevitable, and the inclusion of mechs is a no-brainer. The super fast combat, the manic level of mobility, the huge weapon variety, and the inclusion of titans really just makes this game super unique. I feel like most games have a hook, a few special aspects or mechanics that really draws players in and make them stand out. Titanfall 2 though gives you so much it's almost overwhelming. But the progressive introduction of each means you have time to get accustomed to them whilst following a pretty focused narrative. The story itself, though arguably predictable and cliche, was written and acted very well, delivering great humour, a meaningful story, a surprising amount of depth, and some absolutely jaw-dropping set-piece moments. Now, admittedly, the main campaign is short, but you're never bored throughout, and there's constantly new mechanics or moments or story beats to keep the player engaged, and you're constantly left wanting more. I definitely found myself laughing, gasping, and sometimes simply staring in awe of what I was seeing, feeling, and experiencing as I played through this game. Quite a few times I felt like there were scripted sections that could be pulled right out of a Hollywood blockbuster, like this mission where you're chasing after a ship.
All call signs. Clean up hostiles and rendezvous with the Draconis.
These moments where I felt like I was watching a scene from Ant-Man or something.
Trust me.
And of course the lovable humour of BT.
BT, I found Anderson. He's in the ceiling.
Objective complete. We have rendezvoused with Major Anderson.
That's cold, BT.
Correct.
The gameplay loop is so consistently fun and varied that it doesn't feel repetitive, and whenever I was away from my PC, I kept thinking about my next chance to jump back in. The combination of different game mechanics really makes this a unique shooter, and when you get into the flow, there's real satisfaction you get. I mean, I probably only felt it a few times as I'm not very good, but that's okay. The level design is also quite interesting, especially when you consider the freedom you're given with the speed and movement options at your disposal. So many new areas are accessible now, where in most regular shooters, you're fairly grounded in your ability to traverse. Not to mention being able to collect these helmets, which presents its own little challenge and gives you that little bit of extra replayability, and most are like their own little puzzles. The visuals, graphics, and art design is pretty astounding, and I honestly love the vibrant use of colour. Too few games effectively push the bounds of the colour spectrum, and some can really overdo it, but Titanfall 2 just looks so gorgeous. The way each moment is framed and directed is absolutely spectacular, and you can tell the time and thought was put into each of the stages to ensure the best storytelling experience. You can quite literally see the quality and detail and know that this is what a proper AAA title is meant to look, sound, and feel like. And considering this game took roughly 25 months, that's just over 2 years to be made, I think speaks to what can be achieved when a developer has good leadership and is able to work off a singular, defined vision, especially at the higher levels of management. Like, look at these shots. And here. And of course, here.
We should get moving, pilot.
The only real downside is the length of the story campaign, but you can replay it, which I plan to do at some point, and I rarely replay games. There's also recently been a resurgence in the multiplayer crowd due to some updates the developers have done to get the game running better, I believe. The current Steam peak today sits around 20,000, which is pretty good for a game that's 7 years old, and I can only imagine how much fun you'd be able to have with mechs and some mates. I will say though, the music isn't as epic or iconic as some other games, but is still very respectable, and the sound design is superb. There's definitely some very special moments throughout the game, and the music undoubtedly added to the enjoyment. For example, and now, I have to also mention the weapon variety and how Respawn have been able to reinvent weapons in a way that makes them look, feel and sound unique. The range of weapons is not only surprising, they all look, feel and sound different, and I don't think I've seen guns this distinctive since probably Halo. Like, check this out. And here. And here. And more. Still more. And that's not even all of them. There's also something that I'm not sure how to explain, but the way the mouse moves when you pan or look around has been worked on. I can't exactly describe it, but there were issues I felt in games like Wolfenstein when I moved the mouse. It's just so much smoother and feels better, and don't get me wrong, those games were great as well, but the way the mouse feels in this game is just different, and it feels like quality. After finishing this game, I finally understand why Titanfall got so much love from its fans, and normally when something has this sort of cult following, you need to be wary of hype, but I genuinely think this is well deserved. I sincerely hope Respawn or EA don't abandon this franchise, because it would be a real shame for this game to disappear into obscurity, especially when a good deal of their attention is probably focused on Apex Legends at this point. This was my first playthrough of the story, and in case you needed me to say it, hell friggin' yes, I recommend Titanfall 2 in 2023.